Just hours away from learning crucial inflation figures, which will give key insight into where interest rates could go next week. Live to Jennifer Beshwadi in Canberra. Jen, what do we need to look out for?
Morning, Shervo. Well, we need to see a significant drop in the cost of living. Inflation has been trending down all year. It clocked in at around 7% in March. The prediction is that it will come in at around 6.2% for the June quarter. Anything higher than that, and chances are that the Reserve Bank will lift interest rates once it meets again next week. Now, that is really the expectation, because even though the inflation is going down, it's still way too high. But as you can see there, the Reserve Bank does show that it's slowing down on its rate hikes. It's currently at 4.1%, but many economists believe that because there's been a number of pauses and that the economy is slowing, that the Reserve Bank is being a lot more cautious because it doesn't want to plunge the country into recession. So the good news is, even though a cost of living is still high and inflation data which comes in today will show that, economists believe next week could be the last interest rate hike for the year. Shervo?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thanks, Jen. Here's Nat.
Thank you, Shervo. Wildlife officers and volunteers are in a race against time to save a pod of whales stranded on a beach in Western Australia. At least 70 pilot whales have beached themselves on Chains Beach, east of Albany. 7 News reporter Cyan Valance is there. Cyan.
It's a gut-wrenching scene here at Chains Beach along WA's south coast, where dozens of pilot whales are stranded and struggling after beaching themselves late on Tuesday afternoon. Volunteers working through the night in a desperate effort to save them. No one knows why the whales have beached themselves. Now it's a race against the clock to save them. Some have already been lost. The WA Parks and Wildlife Service have asked volunteers to stay away until experts figure out the best way forward. There's a team from Perth making the 5-hour drive south to arrive early today, but some locals who live in towns an hour or so away felt they just had to help sooner.
Are you going to be here all night, through the night? As long as it takes. There's not much we can do. I just feel like that if there was more people here, that we could all work together and get them out to safety.
So many, and to see nobody down here is really it was really scary.
Tragically, authorities knew something was up when the pod was reported gathering together around 100 metres offshore on Monday night. It's strange behaviour, and they were worried it could mean they were about to beach. But there was nothing they could do to stop them. And at around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, they began stranding. The weather isn't going to be helpful. It is cold, it is windy, and rain is forecast for the rest of the week. But rescuers will do all they can to save as many whales as possible.
OK, thanks, Cyan.
Let's get some more news now. Here's Eddie.
Thank you, Shervo. The wildfires burning in Greece have turned deadly overnight after a water-bombing plane crashed on the island of Evia, killing both pilots. Let's go live to Europe correspondent Sarah Greenold. Sarah, morning. The tragedy was caught on camera by a Greek television network.
A terrible outcome, Eddie, and a really difficult pictures to watch. This plane was flying very low to try and douse these flames. The right wing of the plane clipped a tree as it was going around the corner. You actually see some of the plane come off before it spirals out of control very quickly, plummeting into the hillside there and bursting into flames, killing both pilots aged 27 and 34. The Greek Prime Minister has declared that his country is at war with these wildfires. There's at least 50 burning across the country, but there's new ones popping up all the time. They're still burning on Rhodes, that island that saw all those tourists evacuated the other day, and Corfu as well. But there's also blazes now popping up in parts of France, Turkey and Italy in the south, with Catania, Palermo and Siracusa all in Sicily affected by the wildfires. These pictures here are of Palermo Airport, which had to be temporarily shut down early this morning due to the flames. And this emergency is extending to another continent as well. Algeria in Northern Africa has seen at least 34 people killed, including 10 soldiers who were part of the rescue efforts. As all of this, Eddie, coming as a new report has been published today, a scientific report saying that none of this extreme heat would be happening. It would be, quote, virtually impossible without human-caused climate change.
All right, thank you, Sarah Greenold, for the update there. Meantime, our federal government's issued an unusual travel alert covering the whole of the Northern Hemisphere. There's been that dangerous heat, those wildfires and flooding in Europe, America, Canada and also in Asia. A typhoon is approaching the Philippines and Taiwan. The government says it's important to brush up on what's happening where you're going so you can decide whether it's still safe for you and your family to travel. A man charged over a car that was stolen with a toddler inside has faced a Melbourne court overnight. Let's go live to Nathan Curry. Nathan, the boy's father has spoken about the ordeal.
He has, Eddie. Us all Melburnians were so relieved when that toddler was found alive. And well, imagine how his father would have been feeling. 7 News has obtained vision of him frantically running down the street, chasing after his stolen car with his boy inside, frantically texting and calling for help. And he says once he was reunited with his son, he got a new life and he's never hugged him harder. So that's such a happy outcome for those two boys and their family. In terms of the 24-year-old Dandenong man that faced court overnight, he was remanded in custody and he'll reappear here at the Dandenong Magistrates Court at some point today. Eddie?
Thankfully it ended in that way. Thank you, Nathan. A construction worker is fighting for life this morning after falling up to 12 metres down scaffolding at a work site in Brisbane. Let's go to Georgie Chumley. Georgie, any update on his condition this morning?
Good morning, Eddie. He is still fighting for life. He remains in a critical condition in the Princess Alexandra Hospital after being rushed there yesterday when he fell up to 12 metres from scaffolding, suffering severe internal injuries. His colleagues rushed to his aid, craning him out of that location so paramedics were able to render first aid. Now, the construction union has previously raised concerns about this worksite at the Cross River Rail Boggo Road worksite. That will form part of the Workplace Health and Safety investigation. The site has been shut down today with counselling offered to anyone who was here and may have witnessed the awful fall.
Thank you, Georgie. To the hospital crisis in Western Sydney now, where some patients have been left waiting for hours in emergency departments. That situation could be made worse today as paramedics call a snap strike. Let's go live to Liam Tapper at Blacktown Hospital. Liam, the system is clearly under growing pressure.
Yeah, it certainly is, Eddie. This really is a critical situation. Here at Blacktown yesterday, it really was at breaking point. Some patients here forced to wait up to 18 hours simply to be seen by emergency department staff. At one point, there was even a prison inmate who was sitting amongst the public. Such is the situation that people are facing here. The government, they say that they recognise the situation and they are trying to hire more staff, but it simply is harder than they thought. And the situation, it's only going to get worse today with paramedics going on strike, not responding to non-emergency call-outs. It's all over a pay deal, the government offering 4% pay rise, but they say that that's insulting, Eddie.
Thank you so much, Liam. A French zoo has said bon voyage to the first panda ever born in France. Hundreds of visitors gathered around the panda's enclosure as Yuan Meng had his final breakfast of bamboo stalks ahead of his departure. The 6-year-old panda, whose name means dream come true in Mandarin, is now heading to China, where it's hoped he'll father some panda cubs, taking a little bit of that French romance back to the mainland. There you go, see how that goes.
Hope it goes well.
Because they're only on loan, are they, from Chinese zoos, if they're ever anywhere else?
Technically, yeah, they're diplomatic pandas loaned out and then returned to the Chinese mainland.
On display.
Do they tell him before he goes what his job will be when he gets there?
He has a Twitter account and his last post was, "There's no champagne on this flight." So, you know, that's used to the French life.
Is it Twitter or is it X?
It's X now. It's X now.
We have to keep up with this.
Another thing.